If being kind was enough to earn respect, why do so many genuinely good people feel overlooked, ignored, or taken for granted? Many people spend years believing that being more understanding, more available, and more accommodating will naturally strengthen their relationships. Yet the opposite often happens. The more they sacrifice their own needs, the less their presence seems to be valued. Their opinions carry less weight, their boundaries become easier to cross, and their efforts often go unnoticed. Welcome to a space dedicated to understanding the human mind and modern emotions, helping people make sense of anxiety, relationships, and the thoughts that shape their daily lives. Why being too nice makes people ignore you is not really about kindness. It is about the psychological patterns that influence respect, social perception, personal boundaries, and human behavior. What many people call being nice is often a complex mix of approval-seeking, fear of rejection, conflict avoidance, and emotional conditioning that quietly affects the way others respond to them. If you can't control your emotions, people will control you. Most people misunderstand emotional control. It's not about staying calm. It's about how your mind silently shapes your behavior, your relationships, and the way people respond to you without you realizing it. If you stay until the end, you'll understand the psychological patterns behind your reactions, why you repeat certain behaviors, and how your mind actually builds emotional habits in daily life. Because the real issue is not what you feel, it's what your mind does with what you feel. And most people never notice this process happening. Today, you'll discover why excessive niceness can unintentionally reduce the respect people have for you, how certain behaviors signal weakness even when your intentions are good, and what psychology reveals about healthy boundaries, self-respect, and authentic human connection. Some of these patterns are so subtle that you may recognize yourself in them without ever realizing they were shaping your relationships all along. And the final insight may completely change the way you think about kindness, respect, and the hidden dynamics that influence every social interaction in your life. Posso também criar uma verso ainda mais forte, no estilo dos canes americanos como the school of life. Psych 2 go e pursuit of wonder, com retenção mais agressiva para os primeiros 30 segundos. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling invisible, even though you were the one who listened, helped, and made sure everyone else felt comfortable? Maybe you were the person who said yes when you wanted to say no. The one who replied instantly, offered support without being asked, and avoided conflict at all costs. Yet somehow people still overlooked you. They remembered what you did, but not who you were. If that sounds familiar, stay with me until the end, because what's happening is far more psychological than most people realize. Many people grow up believing that being nice automatically creates respect, stronger relationships, and deeper connections. But in everyday life, that's often not what happens. The mind has a hidden tendency to associate constant availability with lower value. When someone never sets limits, never disagrees, and never protects their own needs, others unconsciously stop paying attention to what that person sacrifices. Not because they are cruel, but because the human brain quickly adapts to what is always available. And the most frustrating part is that the nicer you become, the harder it can be to understand why people seem to appreciate you less. What begins as kindness slowly turns into a pattern that affects the way others see you, and most people never notice it happening until they feel emotionally exhausted. What most people don't realize is that being too nice is rarely just about kindness. Beneath the surface, there is often an automatic mental pattern working quietly in the background. The brain naturally seeks safety, and one of the fastest ways it learns to avoid rejection is by becoming agreeable. Over time, this turns into a habit. You start saying what people want to hear instead of what you truly think. You avoid expressing disappointment. You ignore small moments that bother you. At first, it feels harmless because it prevents tension and keeps interactions smooth. But something unexpected begins to happen. The people around you stop seeing your real preferences, your real boundaries, and even your real personality. Instead, they see someone who will probably adapt no matter what. The invisible pattern is that the human mind often pays closer attention to people who clearly communicate their value than to those who constantly give it away for free. In everyday life, this shows up everywhere. The friend who only calls when they need something. The coworker who assumes you will handle extra tasks. The partner who slowly stops considering your needs because you rarely mention them. None of this happens overnight. It develops through hundreds of small interactions where your brain chooses comfort over authenticity. And the strange part is that while you think you are protecting your relationships, you may actually be teaching people to overlook an important part of who you are. And this is where the real consequences begin to appear. Not in dramatic moments, but in the small interactions that slowly shape your social life. When you spend too much time trying to keep everyone comfortable, you often stop showing people who you really are. Without realizing it, your behavior starts changing. You hesitate before sharing an opinion. You apologize for things that don't require an apology. You stay quiet when something feels unfair. Over time, others begin responding to that version of you. Not the real you, but the version that constantly minimizes itself. This affects relationships more than most people imagine. Friends may stop asking what you want because they assume you will go along with anything. Coworkers may overlook your contributions because you rarely take credit for them. Even in romantic relationships, the desire to avoid conflict can slowly reduce attraction and respect. Human beings naturally pay attention to signals of self-worth. When those signals disappear, people unconsciously adjust how much attention, consideration, and value they give in return. The frustrating part is that many people blame their personality for feeling invisible. They think they are too introverted, too quiet, or simply unlucky with relationships. But often the issue is something much deeper. It is the message their behavior sends every day without a single word being spoken. And once that pattern becomes part of your identity, it starts influencing nearly every social interaction in ways that are surprisingly difficult to notice. The deeper truth is that this pattern usually doesn't start in adulthood. Long before someone becomes the person who always says yes, avoids conflict, or puts everyone else first, the brain has already learned an emotional lesson. For many people, that lesson sounds something like this: if I make people happy, I'll be accepted. The mind is constantly collecting experiences and turning them into predictions about how relationships work. If approval was rewarded in the past, the brain remembers it. If expressing frustration led to criticism, distance, or rejection, the brain remembers that too. And years later, those emotional memories can still influence behavior without you realizing it. That's why some people feel guilty the moment they set a boundary, even when that boundary is completely reasonable. Their reaction is not only about the present situation. It is connected to older emotional experiences that taught them that keeping others comfortable was safer than being honest. The brain doesn't separate those moments as clearly as we think. It links them together, creating automatic responses that feel natural even when they are no longer helpful. This is why the habit of being too nice can feel so difficult to break. You are not simply changing a behavior. You are challenging a pattern that may have been reinforced for years. And the more often that pattern repeats, the more it begins to shape your identity, making it harder to recognize where genuine kindness ends and self-abandonment begins. The turning point is not when you suddenly become more assertive, more confident, or completely stop caring about what other people think. Real change usually begins much earlier, in a much quieter place. It starts the moment you notice the pattern while it is happening. The moment you catch yourself agreeing with something you do not actually agree with. The moment you feel the urge to apologize when you have done nothing wrong. The moment you realize that your first reaction is not always your most honest one. Most people spend years trying to change their behavior without understanding what is driving it. But awareness changes the experience completely. When you begin observing these automatic responses instead of immediately obeying them, something interesting happens. The pattern loses part of its power. You start seeing that being kind and being available at all times are not the same thing. You start noticing that respect is not created by how much of yourself you give away, but by how clearly you communicate your value. This does not mean becoming cold, selfish, or distant. It means understanding that healthy relationships are built on honesty, not constant self-sacrifice. And once you see that difference, many interactions that once felt confusing begin to make more sense. The people who truly value you often respond differently than you expected, while others reveal dynamics that were hidden in plain sight all along. What changes first is not the world around you. It is the way you interpret what has been happening to you the entire time. Maybe that's why so many people spend years asking the wrong question. They ask, why do people ignore me? Why am I always the one giving more? Why do I feel unseen even when I'm doing everything right? But sometimes the answer isn't hidden in other people's behavior. Sometimes it's hidden in the version of ourselves that we slowly created to feel accepted. The version that learned to stay agreeable. The version that learned to stay available. The version that became so focused on keeping connections that it stopped noticing what those connections were costing. And what makes this so difficult to recognize is that it rarely feels like a choice. It feels like personality. It feels like kindness. It feels like who you are. Yet if you look closely, there may have been moments throughout your life when the real you briefly appeared. A moment when you spoke honestly. A moment when you disagreed. A moment when you protected your own needs without feeling guilty. Those moments often pass quickly, but they leave behind an interesting question. If people only know the version of you that constantly adapts, do they truly know you at all? And if you removed the fear of disappointing others, how much of your current behavior would remain exactly the same? Most people never stop long enough to think about that. They continue repeating familiar patterns because familiar patterns feel safe. Not because they are happy, not because they are respected, but because they are known. And perhaps the most fascinating part of human behavior is that a person can spend years searching for recognition from the outside, while never realizing how much of themselves has been hidden from view on the inside. The answer is rarely as obvious as it seems. And sometimes, the things we believe are bringing us closer to others are the very things preventing them from ever seeing who we really are. Before you go, take a second to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if this video made you see human behavior from a different perspective. Every week, we explore the hidden psychological patterns behind relationships, emotions, personality traits, and the decisions people make without even realizing it. I'd also love to hear from you. If you watched all the way to the end, leave the comment, "I finally noticed the pattern." It's a simple way to let me know you stayed until the last minute of the video. And don't stop here. Click on the video showing on your screen right now, because it connects directly to what you learned today and may reveal another behavior pattern that affects your life more than you think. You can also explore the playlist linked on the screen, where you'll find more videos about psychology, emotional habits, social behavior, self-awareness, and the hidden forces that shape everyday interactions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.